your hand if this is your first time with Startup Grind. Ooh, okay, a lot of new blood, as Shachar said. And raise your hand if you came here to listen and meet Idan. Okay, good. Woo! More. Okay, so Idan, this is your evening today. So again, welcome. We're really happy to have you here with us. And I want to share on our prep call, I usually ask our guests, is there any common questions that are being asked or anything specific they want to talk about? And you specifically mentioned you want to talk about your failures, what didn't work, and how much we can learn from it. So we're going to definitely dive to that as well. But first of all,
thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite. Thanks, Lirone. Yeah, let's start.
Let's do it. So I would like to know, I guess you probably know and read Idan's bio, but it's not like hearing it from you. So if you can share a bit about your journey, but more so, what was your drive through your career journey, to exit and also impact. So if you can share a bit of like specific milestones in your journey and the drive that led you.
All right, so I'm Idan, born and raised in Rishon LeZion, the best city in Israel, and the fourth largest. Now I don't live there, but I, served in Unit A200 in 8200 for like 6 years, but not in the tech side actually, more in the intelligence side. And if you would ask me back then, Idan, what your career would look like, I would never say high-tech. I didn't even know what's high-tech. In university, I learned industrial engineering and Handasat Asiya. And I remember that one specific course, it was entrepreneurship. I didn't even go to because I thought it's not relevant to me. This is how, I had no idea I'm going to do that. And then I got a phone call while I was a student from somebody I knew from A200, and he worked in Elbit Systems. And he told me, Dan, you have to come there, you have to come here, we have to do something around cybersecurity. It's going to be the next big thing, we're going to make tons of money. He had no idea what is cybersecurity, and so do I. And I think that was the advantage. And I found myself as a student in Elbit. I took 3 or 4 months understanding what is cybersecurity and what's the business model there of a company like Elbit. It's a defense integrator. And after 4 months, after 6 months, after 12 months, eventually I founded the cybersecurity business unit or subsidiary of Elbit Systems. And I found out that I'm really good at this, and I'm having fun, but it's not mine. I just quit after 2.5 years. I founded my first startup in cybersecurity. It was the first wave of cybersecurity startups, Fortscale, if you'd like, we could talk about it. I moved to San Francisco. Back then, that was the playbook. You're raising money. It's nice, but maybe the R&D should be here, but you have to go to either New York or the Bay Area. So I moved to San Francisco. After 6 months, Fortscale was acquired by RSA. Today it's Dell. I took a year off, and I founded my second startup, Bridge Crew, which was completely different, and it was acquired by Palo Alto Networks, and I joined Palo Alto as SVP, Senior Vice President, leading all the application security business worldwide. And I came back to Israel.
And how long did it take you to sell the first company and the second company?
Fortscale was a too long journey. It was 5.5 years, which were really, really, really hard and tough. Bridge Crew, my second startup, it was acquired almost 1.5 years after we founded it.
And then when you came to Israel, you started working for Palo Alto and also doing some more impact work.
Yeah, so when I came, eventually, have you ever been in San Francisco? Yeah. Did you live in San Francisco? No. Nobody? The Bay Area? Yeah. Where?
In Stanford.
Stanford, okay. And you? Cupertino. So we actually lived in San Francisco in the city for 7 years, and I came back with a wife and 3 kids of us.
Yeah.
And it was for me it was a huge step because eventually the core of my career was there, and the core of family creation and community, my best friends are still there. And for us, it was a big decision to come back to Israel. Back then, it was 4 years ago, COVID time. Israel was like in a very, I would say, challenging phase. Who could imagine we will come to this one? And I made a decision that I have to be here. I have to be in Israel. I really want my kids to be Israeli. It's super important for me. And I want to do more. I want to take the success of the tech industry and to leverage it and to do good for Israel. And this is how I found myself founding my first nonprofit, Place.il. And if you want, we could talk more about it. But today I'm like the very active chairman of Place.il. It's the only platform in Israel that combines the Israeli tech together. We have more than 200 companies. And we have one goal: to open the doors of the tech to everybody in Israel. So people from the periphery, people from the Arab community, and the ultra-Orthodox, and the Negev, and the Galil, and Druze, and Olim Chadashim, and Ethiopians, that we will see everybody that wants and can do that, joining the tech and contribute and become part of this amazing community. So this is what we're doing in Place.il.
And there is also Ir Medina.
Yeah, so, and then I have...
The research was good here.
Right, so I have
Yeah.
some kotzim batachat. I don't know how to translate. But a couple of months ago, I founded another nonprofit, but this is like stealth mode. It's like a very early stage. It's called Ir Medina. And here we have a very clear vision. We believe that the biggest change in Israel is going to happen through the municipalities, through the Shilton Mekomi. And you saw that in COVID, and you definitely saw that in October 7. If you look at what happened in the south and what happened in the north, strong municipalities could help their citizens more than anything else. And I want the tech industry to be there. So our vision eventually is to create a framework for each municipality in Israel, bringing all the talent and the superpower of the tech industry, like talent and leadership and tech and tools, and to help and to push the local municipalities. This is Ir Medina, very early stage.
Yeah, and also very impressive. I mean, you're a startup founder. You did it big time, I can say. Live the Israeli dream, as I sometimes call it. But still, you wanted to come back and you wanted to really make sure that you're a part of this industry and taking the know-how from the tech industry to the impact or social social NGOs impact. That's amazing.
Because we are Israeli, so everything it makes sense to us, right? And we take almost everything here as granted. But I want to be very clear, there is nothing in the world that like the tech industry in Israel. Even in California, even in the Silicon Valley, the tech is not that important. If you look at the numbers of California, now it's the fifth biggest economy in the world. The fourth now. It's the fourth economy in the world. The tech is not that significant if you look at GDP or contribution to tax or contribution to export. In Israel, 40% of the growth of Israel in the last decade, 40% is thanks to the high tech. And 55% of the export and more than 30% of the tax, now after Wiz deal and Google, it will be probably more than 30%. In other words, we own the economy. Okay, nothing else like this in the world. And I don't think the people in the tech industry get it. I don't think we behave like that. I don't think we understand that we own the economy and we own the future, and that means that we have a responsibility on the future of Israel. It doesn't make sense that we own almost 60% of the export, but only 11% of Israelis work in tech. That's it, 11%. That's a gap that I believe is dangerous.
And I think this message goes out there not in the same sense that you said it now. I mean, you said let's take responsibility because we are, the tech scene is the majority of, income or taxes and so on. And actually your answer is a great segue for my next question, is that based on your journey and experience today, 2025, with everything we're going through still, what do you think makes Israeli entrepreneurship unique in this day and age?
You could answer, I don't know. What do you think? What makes us so special? Is it part of the format that the audience could answer?
We can. We're open for it.
What do you
Anybody
think?
want to answer? Maybe you? Okay.
I believe that we can say that we have dreams and we want to achieve them. And nothing will stop us.
Unstoppable.
I think this is the most the basic or most common, especially I believe about the people that arrive today, that everybody here have dreams and they want to achieve them and they will do almost everything in order to get it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's eventually a next natural phase of almost the Zionism. Our grandfathers and grandmothers that built this country and sacrificed so much in order to do that, they were entrepreneurs. They had big dreams. It didn't make sense if you think about it. It doesn't make sense that you will start a startup in, I don't know, where are we, Bnei Brak? And we'll say, yeah, I will beat Google. It doesn't make sense. And in that sense, when they founded the country, I think it was exactly the same thing. And I think we have this, and we don't understand, but we have it in the DNA. This is how we are growing. We are looking for dreams. We're looking for things to accomplish that doesn't make sense. We have this chutzpah. And other people in the world, they are smart. This is, by the way, another thing that I found out that...
By the way, it's recorded, so it's going to be live online.
All right. So one thing that I noticed when I was in
Yeah.
Silicon Valley, there are smart people out there, guys. I mean, the core of the tech industry is not here. It's not here. All the biggest companies are not here yet, and that there is amazing talent. But what we have is chutzpah. I see it with my kids. When we came back to Israel, my eldest you say? She was like, I don't know, 8. She was American. She was like polite. And she had this, she was, polite. And we came back, we were really, we didn't know how she will react to Israelis and the sirens and so on. Anyway, we took her to school, I remember it. We said goodbye. Me and my wife were really worried after 4 hours, because the schools here are only 4 hours, I don't know why, maybe 5. After 5 hours, she came back and she wasn't American anymore. She was Israeli. And I said, how was school? She said, yeah, Abba, זה בסדר, תקדם. It took 5 hours. And it was incredible. And this is the superpower of Israelis, really.
Yeah, you say you change fast, or you absorb to the Israeliness fast. And so you mentioned a few, I would say, angles of the Israeliness: the chutzpah, the entrepreneurship vibe, the value-based vibe, the impact vibe. So with that in mind, and how you view entrepreneurship today, do you think it's only about building breakthrough technology, or there is a broader mission as Israelis, as entrepreneurs, from your point of view?
Both, I guess. First of all, if we talked about the DNA, and sorry for being here spiritual, I really think that Or LaGoyim, that everybody is saying about the Judaism or Israel, this is part of that. The fact that from a garage in Tel Aviv or from a small startup or hub or this amazing community, amazing technology is going. I mean, think about our startup. We were like 15 guys, maybe 20, and after a year, all the developers in the world that dealt with the cloud security eventually touched our code. This is like a huge change you're doing, right? Yeah. And if you're thinking about even bigger missions that are not cloud security, the tech that can come out from Israel could change the life of all the humanity. And this is like a superpower that we have. The people in the world could love us, could not love us, but eventually we're changing the world, and it's a huge responsibility.
And they need us, definitely. And I think, as you said earlier, about not taking it for granted, because we think, or I mean, it's known that amazing things can come from the small state of Israel. But for us, it's like, okay, well, so many of my friends did it, so why I won't be able to do it? But as you said, it's not to take for granted. Not every country can do what, I mean, we are able to do and learn from our friends or peers and want to do more. And with that in mind, I would like to dive deep more into some of your stories. You had, again, like such an incredible journey and experience, and as I mentioned, you wanted to focus on failures. So you did share a few stories on our prep call, and I would love to know more about around building a product, around sales, around hiring. So if you want to share some of your failure stories with us, and how did you cope with them?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I think it's important to talk about failures because usually I'm reading all the press, Calcalist and the market, and I'm going to meetings like this, and usually I hear all the success stories of, yeah, I sold this company for $1 gazillion and I raised $100 million and I'm so amazing, which is cool, but eventually you know that the vast majority of stories are not like that, and the life of an entrepreneur is usually miserable, and it is a roller coaster, and you do fail a lot. And ForgeScale, my first startup, was my biggest success, but it was also my biggest failure. I was certain, you know, I came from 8200, it was cybersecurity, I'm such a handsome guy. I was certain that I'm going to be a zillionaire after like 1 year, maybe 2. And I was certain that people will buy us, that a company will, I knew even which company will acquire us. So it just was a matter of time, right? And then after 3 years, which it didn't happen, and also 4 years, it didn't happen, I understood that Houston, we have a problem. And eventually we were acquired for nothing almost. So it was really, really bad exit. My mom was proud because you could see my face in the newspaper, but I wasn't proud at all. And I had like a real crisis or a real issue, like, what's going on? I sold this company for nothing. Maybe I spent 6 years of my life doing nothing. Maybe I'm a bad CEO. Maybe I'm a bad founder. And it took me almost 6 or, 10 months to realize what happened there, what happened with my first startup. I talked with a lot of friends. I talked with a lot of peers. I noticed that the majority, that as a community, we don't really talk about the real things. When you're meeting a friend, so we say, yeah, I have like $10 million ARR. No, I have 12. I have 35 people. No, I have 40. And usually this is the conversation, and people don't get to talk really heart to heart because, you need to be transparent. You need to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And in this month, I actually hiked a lot in San Francisco, and I wrote to myself a lot. And I talked to friends and family and my wife, and eventually I understood that I'm amazing. I'm a really good CEO and I'm a really good founder. However, I did like tons of mistakes. And usually in real time, it's really hard to notice that. You're living, the day to day. But I knew what are the mistakes. And when I knew how to name them, right, I knew that I have to do another run. I have to build another startup. And I have to make different mistakes, not these ones. And when I understood what were the biggest mistakes, you mentioned some of them, but the biggest mistakes we had was actually, and it took me, again, a long time to understand, the biggest mistake we had was to win Cisco as a huge customer. So after 6 months after we founded this startup, we got a check, literally a check, by the way, from Cisco. It's a Fortune 100 company, and it was a check for $1 million for 3 years. So $3 million in revenues from Cisco. Now, Cisco wanted to do something around cybersecurity. ForgeScale was about do you have, are you in security, by the way, or somebody? Okay. So the area was identifying employees that steal data, okay, that leak data, insider threats. And Cisco really wanted to do that. They had 200,000 employees or something. And they chose our technology. It was, they compared all the startups out there and they chose us. It was after a long, benchmark they did out there. And they chose us and they gave us a huge check. Amazing success, by the way, a week after that, I got another check, true story, from Zurich Insurance. Zurich Insurance, one of the biggest insurance companies in the world. $1 million for 1 year, also 3 years. This is like insane for a startup. We didn't have almost nothing back then. I was the happiest person ever. Now think about the meeting of the board, like the board of directors meeting. Till now, nobody cared. I mean, yeah, it's a startup we invested, we don't. Now suddenly, this is the biggest startup they have. So they're telling you, yeah, Idan, this is amazing. You should move faster, right? You should run faster. You should have sales team. How many sales guys do you have? And you say, I don't know. And say, no, you have to have like 10. How many marketing do you have? And you say, I don't know, this guy, no, you have to have 20. You have to run faster. You have to raise money. And you want to do that, so you're doing it. And then 6 months, and 7 months, and 8 months. And then after 2 years, you understand that, hey, we didn't sell as much as I thought. Now why? Because eventually we are building a product for Cisco. We're building a product for Zurich Insurance. We're not building a product for the market. Now why? Because there is no market. Cisco actually, it was a real win. But Cisco didn't represent the market. They were the only, almost the only company out there that were really, really, really deep into this use case. And nobody else gave a shit. Nobody else cared at all. So we understood that we are building a product for this specific customer, that it's not a market, it's not big enough market. And even with when a customer came and said, hey, I want this, so we brought this huge product that we built for Cisco. It was too big, right? Because it was meant to help a company of 200,000 employees, not a company of 30. And in other words, there was no product market fit. There was no product, and there was no market, and there was no fit. And again, in real time, it's really hard to understand that, right? In real time, you're getting this check and you're happy. In retrospect, it was the biggest mistake we had. And I understood that in my next startup, I'm not talking to the Ciscos. I'm not talking, at least at the beginning, I'm not talking to the big companies. And I'm not building anything before I'm meeting at least 100 customers. And in Bridgecore, that's exactly what happened. We met 100 CISOs, 100 customers before we wrote one single line of code.
Yeah.
And I
because
think
you wanted to verify the use case. You wanted to ensure that there is a real use case, there is a real market. Yeah.
And we wanted to build a product that will fit the majority of customers, not the biggest single one.
Yeah. And you recommend startups not to start with the big companies? Because usually when you work with companies like Cisco, then the board looks at you differently, the potential customers look at you differently because you were able to work with Cisco.
So I wouldn't say that, like, don't work with the big customers. I'm just saying, be careful. And think about the mass market. If you want to be a big company, you need to think, and it's really hard to change it after 3 years. When you have a company and customers and commitments, in the first year, it's critical. You need to think about a product that could fit as, much as big as market can be.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you...
What's your name?
Daniel. So you mentioned that you met with 100 CISOs before you brought single code. Did you have an idea in that time? Or you literally made the ideation part?
So everybody heard the question? I met 100 CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers. Daniel asked if I actually knew. Yeah, so usually when you're meeting customers, I suggest that you will come with an idea. It's really hard to come to a customer and say, hey, what do you think we should build? The majority of customers don't like it. We came with an idea. The idea was completely different than what we eventually built. We wanted to become a services company for cloud security. and we wanted to understand what is the need. Actually, there was a need, and we became a services company for 4 months. And then when we touched the code, when we dealt with the cloud security with our hands, we saw that actually there is a need for a product, and we built the product. But yeah, come with an idea first.
Can I have a
Yeah.
follow-up?
Yes.
What's your name?
Omri, how did you reach 100 CISOs? Was this your first company, right?
So no, that was my second company.
So you came with a
Correct. Back then, I lived already in San Francisco, so I had like a really big network of CISOs. Today, I think it's much easier. Today, you have all the investors, all the VCs, they have the network, and you could work with the VCs, and they will give you access, even in the due diligence. And if not, it's a really hard work, but you have to do it. You need to talk to customers.
Okay, thank you. So, and the questions were, I think, very spot on for the story you shared. And you also said about building a product, some of the learnings that you had around building a product that can or
Yeah, I
cannot be
think
copied.
we touched that, but I want to say another
Yeah.
thing, that one of the conclusions I had, that I invested, me as a CEO, I invested too much in the technology.
Yeah.
This is another common mistake of entrepreneurs, especially Israelis, especially in cybersecurity. We really like technology, and we think that, we have to have the best technology out there, and, back then we didn't have even AI, this is how old I am, it was machine learning. So there was a competition who has the best machine learning, and I remember that we hired so many PhDs to the team, and till now I don't understand what they did, but I'm not sure they did
PhDs.
anything. Yeah. They wrote patents actually, so we had the biggest number of patents ever in the history, I think. And by the way, this is why Cisco chose us. They saw that we have the deepest, the best technology out there. However, in the same day we were founded, another company was founded exactly more or less the same day. It was Exabeam, I remember it. And Exabeam had exactly the same idea, exactly the same market. They also wanted to help you find insider threats. And we were really, competition is good, but it's scary. Anyway, we saw that we have the best technology, it's okay. Also, Cisco told us because they compared us. And I was happy, but after a year when I was stuck with Cisco and Zurich, maybe another 2 or 3 customers, they had 100 customers. And after a year, they had, I think, 300 customers. After 4 years, when we sold the company for nothing, they were, I think, worth above $1 billion. Now, why? Do you have a guess?
Sales and marketing.
Sales and marketing, what else?
Scale.
Scale, yeah.
Regulations.
No, not regulation. We hope, everybody's hoping, no regulation in our industry.
They had market fit.
They have definitely, first of all, exactly, the product was super, super cool. They just had an amazing UX and a very, very easy to deploy. Because we built a product eventually for Cisco, we didn't care about the deployment. They had a deployment, it took them, I remember, like 3 minutes to deploy. It took us 3 months.
Wow.
And second, they had, exactly as you mentioned, a machine for sales and marketing. So they just brought the best VP sales, I remember, and he brought all the team. And when we were busy with writing patents, they were busy with selling. And when I understood that, after we sold the company, I understood that in my next startup, I have to invest at least 50% of my time as a CEO. Not in the technology, but in the go-to-market. I have to be innovative also there, how to sell this product. And in Bridgecore, this is how my second startup, this is how we came up with an idea that we have to have an open source. Because our customers were developers, and developers don't care about security, and we understood that our strategy to win their hearts is to give them the product for free. It was a huge bet, but eventually it was the best decision we ever made.
So you were saying that definitely invest in UX, UI, sales, make sure it's accessible and easy even for, as you said, the community of developers in your case. And let's also talk about the hiring. either hiring employees and also maybe finding co-founders, which I know this is a common question that our audience has. But what are some of the insights and learnings?
Co-founders. Are you looking
Yeah.
for co-founders? Anybody here? So yeah, that's usually a nightmare. Unless
Let's
you,
not sugarcoat it.
yeah, no, but
Yeah.
probably you heard it, but it's probably like finding a partner or finding your wife or husband or whatever you're saying these days. It's tough. You need somebody that will complement you. You need somebody that will challenge you, and you need to understand what are your advantages and what are your disadvantages. So the other co-founder will complement you, and you have to have exactly as a relationship. You have to have communication. The best startups I've seen are startups that the founders can communicate almost without even words. In Bridge Crew, half of our time was in COVID. We didn't even meet each other. I was in San Francisco.
Wow.
I had two co-founders. They were here. We didn't even meet. Everything was in Zoom. And this is where our communication got into test. It's all about that. Hiring, it's a different area. Also, huge mistakes I've done. I think in Fortscale, my first startup, I said, okay, I have to bring the best guys out there, right? I mean, you remember, I'm going to be a zillionaire, so I have to bring the best VP sales, the best VP marketing, the best. And for me, the best were the most experienced ones, right? I had zero confidence, probably, and I needed to bring all the best people out there. So it took me a year, and I brought the best VP marketing in Silicon Valley in security. He came to us with ridiculous salary, and then he told me, Dan, I could start hiring. And I said, okay, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm going to hire. I need like 11 people and a secretary. And I said, okay. I didn't have a secretary. And you could imagine that this guy never brought any leads to the company. Now, why this guy was so senior, he didn't fit a startup, of $2 million in ARR. He fit a company like a pre-IPO. Or in other words, bring the people you actually need, not the people that look good on the resume or look good on the website or on LinkedIn. And I made a decision that in my next startup, I'm going to bring actually only people that are hungry, that want to prove themselves, and all the management in Bridge Crew, for them it was the first ever role that they did. The VP product he was an amazing product guy, but this was his first managing position. The CTO, the VP engineering, marketing, sales, I was the only guy that actually did his job, maybe poorly, but I did the job before that. Bring the up and comer, I totally believe in this. And don't bring the people just because it looks good on the website.
This is a really good point. You say bring the people who are hungry. This is the first time they want to prove themselves. What other criteria you had when you were interviewing employees for your company?
Probably you know that, but for me the most important part is the motivation.
Yeah.
And I want to see the motivation and understand it. Where does it come from, and what do you care of, and what do you want to prove to others or to yourself? And I think this is the most important thing.
And you mentioned several times that you were sure that you're going to be a zillionaire, and it will be so easy for you. And then the reality shows you differently. And with that in mind, if you can share a bit more about the tough parts. I mean, you said that you had to kind of rethink and how you did things. So if you could maybe share more what helped you get out of these tough parts, and why did you want to come back and become a startup founder?
First of all, founders we are ridiculous creatures. I don't know why we're doing it to ourselves. It is a roller coaster, and it was my life, it was my identity, this is what I've done. When I got this win from a customer, I was the happiest person in the world. When I got an email from an employee that is leaving me, probably the same day, I was so depressed. So it is who you are. I think in my second startup, I had much more perspectives on life. I understood that it's a long journey. You need lots of luck, and you need patience. and you need to be really good. And I found out that if I'm going swimming, or if I'm going running, or if I'm going with my friends or with my kids, and I spend some time with them and not with a startup, I'm a better CEO and I'm a better leader because I see everything in more perspective way. And my advice to you, yeah, this is your life, do what you need to do, but also take some time to treat yourself. It will give you the right perspective for making the right decisions.
This is a very important point, and that's also what you say made you become more resilient. I mean, the experience, the family, having those anchors.
Yeah, you're right. Resilient is it. Yeah.
It's a good word these days.
Yeah.
And you mentioned also that you built, if I'm not wrong, the second company in order to be sold, right? To be acquired.
Okay. No, not exactly. So another point that I understood, I think I mentioned it, but I want to emphasize it because again, people don't talk about it at all. I built the first company to be acquired. I was certain that I knew that either HP or Splunk or Intel back then, I was certain that they're going to acquire us. So I built a company for that. And then I said, okay, I have to get to know HP. So we did integration with the HP products. And then I understood that Sue, I remember her, she was amazing. She was the head of whatever. So I said, I have to get to know her. I spent time with her and dinners and lunch and breakfasts. Same thing with Splunk, the second acquirer. They never called me, by the way, till now. And I understood that one of the mistakes I've done, eventually, that maybe in unconscious, I built a company to be acquired. And founders will never admit it, because yeah, I'm building this company for IPO, right? I'm building the next, but eventually in subconscious, you are thinking about acquisition. And I promised myself that in my next startup, in my second startup, I'm building a company to actually to work and to be profitable and to make money. And I really, really believed in this. And this is why when Palo Alto called us, seriously, I was really surprised. We didn't plan it. We didn't even talk with Palo Alto. We didn't even know what's Palo Alto. And I believe that it wasn't coincidence. I believe that when you're building a real business, you will hire the right people. You will make the best decisions in building the product. This is what you have to do, and then maybe acquisition will come.
So you're talking about basically it's about focus, right? Because if you're focusing about selling, then
Yeah.
you're maybe not focusing on the product.
Correct, and eventually you need to be
Yeah.
focused on one thing.
One which is also big, I mean, in terms of the company. But you're saying, so when you really focused on growing the company, making it profitable, that was where the magic happened for you as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a bit about luck. What's the role of luck? Because you're also sharing, hey, I learned from my experience, I wanted to do it better, I did different mistakes, but how do you find luck or serendipity or however you want to call it as part of your journey?
I don't, a big one? Do you believe in luck, guys? Not luck is a tough term. How do you say it better? Timing.
Timing.
Destiny, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, timing is everything. I mean, it's finding the right co-founder and finding the right category. Nobody knows if it will be a category or not when you are joining it. Getting the right phone call from a customer, making the right decisions. This is like a very unknown, unclear, undefined space. And when you're making tons of decisions, not all the time you even know that you're making the decisions. You need to, it's a bet, and you need to have good guts, and you need to think that to believe in your guts. But you need luck, and yeah, it was kind of luck. The fact that Palo Alto, now I understand it. They actually, in this specific moment in life, said, "Hey, we have to have this technology," and they heard about us from the developers that used us. And we couldn't build it, we couldn't, plan it. It was just there. And sometimes it's not there. So I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but not everything is dependent on us. Sometimes it's not us. Even if you'll be amazing founders and amazing CEOs, sometimes you'll fail because the time wasn't right, and you need luck.
You know, luck in Hebrew, mazal, they're saying that it means makom, zman, lasot. So place, location, timing, and do, be in the doing. So, you know, maybe it's all together, I guess. And today you are you're seeing or overseeing acquisitions through the lens of working in Palo Alto. And many of the founder here wants to obviously get funded. So how much has this added to your understanding on building a startup, or now that you're in the investor's perspective, what are some of the tips you can share with startups that are going to fundraise?
So we're not talking about Palo Alto, but I will talk in general. When you think about how eventually these big companies are choosing which company to acquire, I understand that it's a very complicated situation. It's not what you think. It's again combination of timing and luck. And in security, eventually for each category there are 10 or 20 competitors, and the acquirer should think, who should I acquire? And usually it's very early stage categories, so you don't have like a huge difference in revenues or ARR. Much of the decision is about the chemistry and communication between the founders and the buyer. And are you resonating? Are you talking in the same terminology and vision? Can you share it? And the hype. And usually hype is more about customers. If I had 3 customers last year, now I have 30 or 300. Showing hype and showing trend, this is the vote of confidence the acquirer needs. And just be yourself. Again, you cannot necessarily control the situation, okay, of if somebody will buy you or not.
Yeah. So you just need to see a lot of investors, try to do your best, bring your best, and hope that odds will be for you. And when we're talking about the Israel cybersecurity culture or technology, also in light of the rising AI, how do you see the Israeli landscape in the cyberspace these days? How is it changing, or?
So it's changing rapidly. I think what happening still didn't close the Wiz acquisition. I think it changed again the potential and the dreams of the Israeli founders. Now we understand that we can build here companies, really big companies, not companies that have only the R&D in Israel, but companies that have the headquarters and the leadership and the business leadership in Israel. This is what Wiz proved to the world. The Wiz founders, the amazing founders, we should dream big and we should dream bigger, and you are the guys that could accomplish that. And 50% of the investments last year, 50% went to cybersecurity. And this is bad. The tech industry should be not only about cybersecurity, it should be about AI, it should be about health and energy and medical devices and you name it. And it has to be more diverse in areas and fields, I believe. And we should think bigger in all aspects.
And I want to go back to the US, because eventually when startups are fundraising and then we want to start getting clients, obviously the US is the go-to market. Now there are always interesting, or even I would say some funny stories about cultures, when cultures meet or cultures collide. Do you have any either stories or tips for the founders who are going to the US?
Are there any Americans here?
Sorry to admit that.
No,
I'm sorry.
So you will say if I got it right, but it took me a year in the US to understand that I don't understand Americans. And the problem, if you would put me in China, so I would say, yeah, there is a culture difference, right? I need to learn, and I don't speak the language, but when you put me in, the Bay Area, so yeah, I get it. I know English, kind of, I don't know if this is English, but kind of. And it took me a year to understand that there is difference in culture. And we Israelis, we tend to forget it. And I remember one day I got a new VP sales, an American one, and he asked me, we had lunch, and he asked me, Dan, what's the difference? He never worked with Israelis. I'm not sure he will ever work again, but anyway. He asked me, what's the difference between Israelis and Americans? And I don't know how, but I told him, you remember that the 60s, we weren't there, the Shnot HaShishim, the 60s, and you know, two events happened in the 60s. The Americans, in I think 1961, Kennedy said, we will go to the moon by the end of this decade, and fucking they did it. In 1969, they reached the moon. It's crazy. And in Israel, more or less the same time, we had the 6 Days War. And in 6 days, we conquered 3 times of our land. I think Americans will never do that in 6 days. And I think Israel will never reach the moon. And maybe this is the difference. We are really, really good in the chutzpah and in doing something very quick and dirty, while Americans are really good at planning and thinking big. And my dream is that we will keep the chutzpah, but we will become a bit more Americans when it's coming to thinking and building long-term visions and thinking about the moonshot and building a strategy and huge projects to accomplish it.
That was a very, very
Do you agree?
interesting way to put it.
Well, since I'm married to an Israeli and we always clash about me being so planned ahead and structured,
Yeah.
whereas he's more like go with the flow, resourcefulness, doesn't understand why I need an Excel file for every mission that we do or for every trip or for every like.
What's your name? Sorry?
Nurit.
Nurit?
Nurit.
So I think you're right. Israel needs a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
right? Israel needs
Yeah.
an Excel probably to manage it because I don't know what's going on.
Exactly, but that's also a really good way to put it. And when we're going back to the impact part that you have, the social impact. So how do you find a difference from coming as an entrepreneur with the structured, maybe unstructured way of being an entrepreneur to the so different world of NGOs, and it's a different pace and different timing to get things happening?
I think it's more similar than you could think.
Okay.
When I founded PlaySale, it started with a pain that I saw, with a need or with an opportunity. I had to think about a vision and what do we want to accomplish, and to build a plan and to hire people and to raise money. For me, it was another startup. However, you're right, the domain was completely unclear to me and I needed to learn it. This is why it got me excited, because I understood that I have to do it and I have to learn, and it's a new community and new partners and so on. But the muscle of building a startup and building an NGO, it's quite similar. And I think all Israeli founders and entrepreneurs eventually should do something also in the community and in our society. We have to make Israel great again. And it's our superpower to do that.
So I have 2 more questions before we're going to your question, guys. The first one is really, how can we take part? How can we participate in PlaySale or in Medina?
Good question. I could send you some links for volunteering. I would love you to volunteer in our activities, and this is answering your question.
Okay, so stay tuned. And the last one is, what would be the advice you would give to your younger self at the beginning of your journey? If there was one advice that could have, changed the whole course of things for the better for you, what would it be?
It's easy. Just calm down.
Just calm down.
Yeah. Everything
Can you elaborate?
will be okay.
Can you elaborate?
Even now, I'm still worried and concerned about everything I need to accomplish and I want to accomplish, and not everything is according to your plan or your pace that you want. And eventually, I will say to myself, just calm down and do your thing. and believe your guts, and everything will be just fine.
Why do you think you're so motivated to change, to do? You said Kutsim Batusik. I can also relate because I also say it about myself. What is your excuse for that?
You will start.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference in people's lives, and I'm so curious and excited about so many things I can do in the world. So I just want to do more and more.
Same here.
High five. All right.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Guys, now it's you. Your turn. Thank you so much.